Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. And it just felt so good to do that intro because the New York Knicks are going to be back playing basketball tomorrow night, Friday, as we take on the Washington Wizards. Hopefully, we can come out victorious. You never know what a team's going to look like when it comes to after the NBA All-Star break. Some teams just flip a switch, but the New York Knicks have to come out hungry. They got to come out with no nonsense, take care of business, and win that game. But Porzingis has been playing at a very high level. You have Beal over there. You have Kuzma that's playing at a high level. Like, you can't discredit the Washington Wizards. But anyway, let's not cover that too much. There's other things we have to cover as well. But yeah, the New York Knicks haven't played they haven't played in kind of a while because of the NBA All-Star break and obviously the rest for the 29 other NBA teams besides the New York Knicks leading into the All-Star break as well. But we got to give shout outs to Julius Randle. We got to give a shout out to Quentin Grimes, Jericho Sims as well. And you could skip this part if you want. Yes, we're going to be getting into the meat and potatoes of the main topic of this video. Jericho Sims embarrassing the dunk contest, but it was awesome to see him participate. Like, the first dunk was pretty good. The second one was freaking embarrassing. I don't even know what that was. It was pretty much the same dunk, and he didn't even take out the paper cleanly. That was just an absolute disaster. It was just really bad, but Jericho Sims, still like him. He's a likable dude. Humble, 58th overall pick. He has surpassed anyone's expectations being the 58th overall pick in general. And I know he was getting bashed on Twitter. I'm not going to lie. It was embarrassing, and that dunk was just absolutely whack. But, yeah, dunk contest, pretty bad. Mac McClung was pretty good. You could say Trey Murphy was pretty good, but yeah, Jericho Sims, absolutely awful. But shout out to Jericho Sims for participating in a dunk contest. At least us getting some type of recognition and Sims getting chosen. I feel like he has the hops, but he just didn't have any creativity at all. Quentin Grimes in the Rising Stars game, absolutely amazing. Would have won MVP if Jose Alvarado didn't lead his team to victory. And I actually like the tournament type of style with the Rising Stars game. And I didn't follow the All-Star break as much last season, probably because we didn't really have any Knicks participating. I watched some clips from House of Highlights, but Quentin Grimes is the best player out there on the floor. It's just a Rising Stars game at the end of the day, though. But that was probably the most fun to watch outside of like everything else, which is kind of embarrassing. Like adding the skills challenge, 3-point contest, and all that. That's kind of bad that it was like better than the All-Star game, in my opinion. Seeing those young players out there on the floor play at a pretty high level. There's not much defense being played, but shout out to Quentin Grimes, Julius Randle in the 3-point contest. I understand he only had 13 points, but it's cool to see him participate. Step in for Anthony Simons out with an ankle injury. So shout out to Julius Randle for doing it. And Knicks fans, what were you really expecting? He's shooting 33% from three of the season. I know he's top 20 and threes, I believe, made the season, but he doesn't shoot it at the most efficient clip. This really isn't his event, but Kevin Huerter made 8, so suck on that. Knicks fans that just want to hate. But shout out to Julius Randle. He was in the All-Star game as well. He knocked down a 3. He missed some threes, but he had some dunks, 11 points. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Shout out to the New York Knicks that did participate in NBA All-Star weekend. Knicks back playing the Wizards tomorrow night. Recap. You already know it's coming. Friday, awesome. Because I'm off Saturday and Sunday. So let's talk about this player, though I haven't really fully covered. Yes, I made the trade video on him, and I've covered him when it comes to recap videos. My latest video a few days ago when it comes to things that have changed within this New York Knicks team. Have they flipped a switch when it comes to certain things? There's certain things that aren't going to fully change under Tom Thibodeau, but the New York Knicks are playing good basketball entering the NBA All-Star break, but it's their job to execute after the All-Star break. So we trade for Josh Hart in 3 games, and 2 out of those 3 games as well, they're commanding victories. The Brooklyn Nets game's a commanding victory, the Atlanta Hawks game's a commanding victory, the Utah Jazz game, that game did become competitive down the stretch, but obviously we took care of business. And Josh Hart, I thought, was a very solid player that we went on to trade for. I wasn't wowed. I was like, this isn't a pop move. Is he a starter here moving forward? Like, if we're trying to hold up a Larry O'Brien trophy or something like that? Probably not. But I was like, this is a solid move. First round draft pick. We'll see what happens. But Cam Reddish, we went on to deal. Ryan Arcidiacono. He actually played at Villanova with Jalen Brunson and with Josh Hart, so it would have been cool to hold on to him for like chemistry purposes. Could have been like Orteo Pinson or something like that. And then we traded Svi Mikhailuk as well. So Cam Reddish, I don't understand, or I'm curious to see what he's going to do over there in Portland. He's had a couple solid games. We'll see what happens, though. But since trading for Josh Hart has been freaking awesome. And I'm not expecting him to average 17 points per game moving forward because that's not his game. I do understand he did have a season that he averaged nearly 20 when the Trailblazers were banged up with injuries, but he's just not going to be that player that he's averaging nearly 20 coming off the bench, especially with quickly out there on the floor, that he likes to have the ball in his hands and score at a very high level. That's just not Josh Hart's game as well. And he's a Swiss Army knife type of player, and he's definitely proven that with the New York Knicks. And you truly see the impact of winning and how we're able to have these commanding types of victories that we haven't really had this season. I'm not saying he's a future star or anything like that, and I'm not saying his stats are going to continue of him shooting over 60% from three, but he has been brilliant for the New York Knicks. If it's communication, the chemistry with Jalen Brunson, shooting the three ball, defensively reading the passing lanes, on-ball defense, rebounding the heck out of the basketball, and it's just not just the numbers of rebounding. Of 5 rebounds per game. We knew he could rebound coming over from Portland, 8 rebounds per game. It's the context of the steals, of the rebounds, the three-point shots, the way he's getting his shots. He's not forcing stuff. He did hit some circus shots around the basket versus Brooklyn Nets. He had 27 points in that game, hit a couple garbage time threes to really get the crowd going. So he's built for New York. He loves being engaged with the fans. He's a mentally tough player. He's not afraid. And he's had this very interesting career as well. So I'm interested to see what his three ball is going to look like moving forward in his career. And he's actually set to be a free agent in 2024. And I'm interested to see if Tibbs is going to be the coach here in a few years, because he has had tons of coaches throughout his career. He's had Luke Walton, he's had Alvin Gentry, he's had Willie Green, he's had Chauncey Billups, Tom Thibodeau. He's had 5 coaches throughout his career, and there's going to be an inconsistency of mentally, what is my role here? Am I being utilized as a three-point shooter, scrappy defensive player? It's really hard to be bought into a role when there's an inconsistency at the head coaching position. But getting back into his play, sorry, I knocked my pen there. Getting back to the consistency of the play, what I love the most about his rebounds, we've had problems when it comes to rebounding in the fourth quarter and in overtime. Yes, total of, I'm sure, boards, we're probably up there in the top 10 when it comes to rebounding the ball, but anyone that has truly watched his team in the fourth quarter, if it goes to overtime down the stretch, we have struggles of boxing out and continuing to build upon a lead. But one of the main reasons the New York Knicks have been able to put the pedal to the metal and really execute down the stretch is because we get more possessions. We're not allowing second chance opportunities to these ball clubs and allowing them to hit open threes outside on the perimeter or get some interior buckets of and ones. So having Josh Hart snag big time defensive rebounds down the stretch of games, and I know we've had these 2 blowouts against the Atlanta Hawks and the Brooklyn Nets down the stretch. We absolutely took control in that second half of that game, but you look at the Utah game, his very first game with the New York Knicks, when he was just a spark plug right out the gate. He had some big-time defensive rebounds down the stretch. He plays hard. He plays physical. He plays with tons of heart. And he kind of, in those 3 games, it's not a huge sample size, but we have Quentin Grimes, who's a solid defensive player. He's a good defensive player, especially for his age. I'm not going to say he's great. But we need someone that has big play potential when it comes to defensive rebounding, and he brings that. When it looks like the opposing team is going on a run offensively, it's all right, they cut it to 5. We were just up 13 points. They're on this crazy run right now. We need a huge momentum steal to take it coast to coast or set someone up for a layup, and then just make the momentum go away. And Josh Hart has done that in games, if it was the Brooklyn game or if it was in the Utah game. And when in the Utah game at Madison Square Garden, when I believe he had 4 steals, he was actually one shy of his career high of 5 steals in a game, which is freaking awesome. And I do believe he's going to have a game that he has 5 steals. He just has that ability on the defense side of the basketball. He just has such great instincts. I swear he reads the floor defensively like a corner. He could have his back turned and he's still able to just recognize and sense when the ball's coming his way and come up with a big-time steal. But we saw that in a Utah game, or we saw that in the Brooklyn game when they would be going on a little bit of a run. And he would just have this big-time steal. He would sense the throw-ahead pass in transition, or they're trying to throw it out there, throw an outlet pass in transition. But he comes up with a steal, and he's the ability of taking a coast-to-coast or just making the solid read out there on the floor. And there's movement when he's out there as well. He makes others' lives easier on the offense side of the basketball. I'm not saying he's a Magic Johnson or Jason Kidd wizard passing the ball, but he makes the right plays is what I'm saying, because when he comes up with steals, this team gets out and runs quickly. Energetic guy. Harnstein, energetic guy. Obi, when he's out there, energetic guy. So it's going to give Obi more opportunities as well when he's out there on the floor. If it's for 8 minutes, if it's for 10 minutes, Obi likes to run. He likes to use his athleticism. He likes to run the floor like a gazelle. So he has given us those momentum-changing plays in a very limited sample size. But it's not just a limited sample size, though. Throughout his career, if it's with Portland, if it's with the Lakers, if it's with the Pelicans, he's proven that he's a damn good defensive player. In spite of only being 6'4", he has very good technique and he has a high motor. That's what I love about him. So he's able to stop runs, and we have the ability to create momentum offensively with a Jalen Brunson, but it's just like we need to create momentum or stop runs defensively as well. We need to have that big play potential defensively. And so I really like that. He also has the ability, or we have seen, he has a nice two-man game with Hartenstein. If it's Hartenstein cutting, Josh Hart finds him. Or Hartenstein's cutting, Josh Hart finds him. And he could take it very strong to the basket. Obviously busted out that turnaround fadeaway, that spin move going into that mid-range up against the Brooklyn Nets. He's not going to have this fully deep bag. He does have solid moves. But I like that he's not afraid to put the ball on the floor, attack very strong to the basket, draw fouls, and if he can knock down those open threes, and he doesn't take terrible shots, which I love, if he could finish the season shooting 36, 37%, that is acceptable. We could accept that. 66% or over 60%, that's just not going to continue. That's not realistic. If he does, then holy shit, we might have Michael Jordan on our hands, or we may have Ray Allen, like one of the best three-point shooters to ever live. I'm not saying Michael Jordan is a three-point shooter. He just came out of my mouth. I don't know why. But Josh Hart has had this inconsistency of shooting the three ball. But again, when you're that number one option with all these injuries with Portland a couple years ago, you're going to be shooting 37, 38% from three because your confidence is at an all-time high. You're this number one option. Wow. Coming over from Portland, he was shooting 30% from three. So Josh Hart brings tons of energy, brings the coast-to-coast ability, which we have seen. It opens up so much for this basketball club when it comes to easier buckets and transition, those momentum changing plays. He's been knocking down the three ball. We want to see it consistently, but the rebounding just changes so much. It just helps us so much down the stretch of games, helping us close out games and give us more possessions offensively, even if it's offensive rebounds as well. But he's currently averaging 17 points, 5 rebounds, making solid reads, around 2 to 3 assists. I know he's shooting over 50% from the field, over 50% from three. I'm not expecting those shooting splits to continue, but he has been awesome. He has been a dog. You see the chemistry with Jalen Brunson because he played with Jalen Brunson at Villanova, and I like him with the second unit because it takes pressure off of quickly, takes the pressure off of Hartenstein. That Hart has some playmaking ability to make solid reads. Hartenstein has the capability of passing the ball. We've seen that more as of late. Hartenstein's been playing at a very high level as of late, rebounding the ball, interior rim protection. Quickly, obviously, he's just improved more and more every season, especially this season. Or you could say he wasn't that good last season, but this season you see another year under his belt. The defense, the scoring of the ball, playing at the right pace, adding a mid-range as well to his game. This bench looks a lot better than it did at the beginning of the season with Hartenstein, with Quick. Obi's ability to run the floor when he's out there with the Hart's going to help a lot. So Hart makes solid reads. He's engaged defensively. Down the stretch of games, you could give Grimes some rest on the bench, or an RJ if he may be struggling defensively in a game. You could sub Harden to give Grimes some rest, and Hart could take on those one-on-one offense assignments or one-on-one defensive assignments, reading the passing lanes. He's just such an instinctual. He has great instincts on defense. I just love watching him play. He plays very hard. He's built for New York. He's not afraid, and I think he's a great match with Tom Thibodeau, or a great match anywhere. And everyone's probably wondering why he's been traded. Why has he been traded? Well, he's been traded for CJ McCollum. He's been traded for Anthony Davis. You're going to have to give up solid players in order to get great players or very good players in return. And I do believe Josh Hart is a solid player. He's not a pop player that's like number one option going to lead us to a championship, but he's definitely going to help us win games. I love his leadership. I love his mentality. I love how hard he plays. Let me know down below your thoughts on Josh Hart so far. Peace out, y'all.